Good morning. Have you ever felt like God was mad at you? Or perhaps you just blown it so many times. There was no reason. In fact, you didn't blame him. You would do the same thing. If somebody had disappointed you as many times as we have disappointed God, you'd say, it's all right. It's all right. I get it. I've blown it so much. I don't expect really anything. I want to show you how far from truth that could possibly be in light of God's word. In Romans 8, he tells us here in verse 29, he tells us that whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son. To be conformed to the image of his son. Predestined. What does that word mean, predestined? It comes from the word horizo in the Greek, which means horizon. And in Greek understanding, it was to set a limit. Have you ever stood on the beach, you look at the horizon, and all you see is a line? That's exactly what the word means. It means to draw a line, to set a demarcation, to encircle in such a way that you have this particular scheme in mind. And now think about that for just a minute. God predestined you before you were ever born. He foreknew you before you were born. You say, well, how is that? Well, if we look in Galatians chapter 1, you remember Paul talking about, I used to be this church persecutor. But then he goes on to say, God who did what? Set me apart from my mother's womb. He had this plan, and he was going to make that plan work. Now, all of these words are in the aorist tense, these verbs, which means it's past tense, done deal, can't be repeated, ongoing results. And so it's a finished thing in God's mind. He's already predestined you for something. You remember Star Wars? I love the first one. My wife and I were in seminary, and I remember going out there, and Luke Skywalker had been taken by Darth Vader. And he said, this is your destiny. You need to receive and fulfill your destiny. You know what? God's got a destiny for you. He's predestined. For Paul, it was to be a preacher to the Gentiles. And it was set in the mind of God. It couldn't be changed. Let me tell you something. You're not strong enough to mess up God's plan for you. You're not strong enough to do that. God's going to see it done. He said it's already in the past tense. He's already predestined for you for something great. Something he's called you to do. You can't mess that up. He's more powerful than you. He will keep shaping you, breaking you, making you. He's already seen you say, well, I've blown it now. When God called you, did he know you were going to make the mistake you just made? Yes. Does he know everything? Yes. Is he mad at me? No. Am I justified? Has everything been forgiven? Yes, it has. I can't mess this thing bad enough up for it to be detoured from the power and might of God. All I'm telling you this morning is, get back on track. Get back on track. Don't live in self-pity saying, well, I've blown it and all these kind of things, or just beating yourself up, self-criticism. Say, no, God's got a plan for me. And you know what? I'm going to get back on it. I'm going to get back on track, and I'm going to allow his grace to work in my life. I'm not going to condemn myself. That's what the accuser does. That's what the devil does to you, not God. He is pulling you, wooing you, bringing you, taking you, making you, forming you, molding you into the person he's predestined you to be. God has a plan. It will come true. Trust in God's wisdom. If you've been watching this message and it's meant something to you, I encourage you to share it with somebody else who's dealing with this same problem and this same challenge of accepting yourself and realizing God's in control of my life, not even me. it's God. God bless you. Have a great day.